Most people fear serial killers in the shadows, but some of their darkest moments were under bright lights, in full view of the world. In the courtroom, their different side often emerges. Some show arrogance, others break down, and a few reveal something even more disturbing. When forced to face justice, their masks don't just slip, they shatter. This isn't about their crimes. This is about what happened when they were finally caught and faced the world in court. Welcome back to Prison Stories. Today, we're diving into the most chilling courtroom moments ever captured. Gary Ridgway.
Up, planning to kill her. After killing her, I placed her body near the northern boundary of SeaTac Airport. Is that your statement?
Yes, it is.
Is it true?
Yes.
For nearly 2 decades, Gary Ridgway was a ghost. Women were disappearing around Seattle, bodies turning up in rivers and woods. But the man behind it all stayed hidden. He was finally caught in 2001, not by witness accounts, not by confessions, but by DNA. Facing the death penalty, Ridgway struck a deal with prosecutors. In exchange for his life, he would confess to every murder he could remember and help recover the remains of his victims. In court, Ridgway was as expressionless as ever. As each charge was read, he responded in a flat tone, "Guilty, guilty, guilty." No hesitation, no emotion.
Charged in count 1 for the death of Wendy Lee Caulfield.
Guilty.
How do you plead to the charge of aggravated murder in the first degree? As charged in count 2.
Guilty.
But the families of his victims had waited too long and stayed too quiet for too many years. One by one, they stood before him in court. Some cried, some screamed, some called him a monster to his face. Ridgway didn't flinch.
I wish for him to have a long, suffering, cruel death.
He is not. In your words, you said that they didn't mean anything to you, but she meant everything to us.
She was a mother, she was a wife, she was a sister, and we miss her.
He sat there listening, emotionless, taking the words. But a moment came that cracked his exterior as well. A man did something no one expected. Robert Rule, the father of one of the victims, looked Ridgway in the eye and said, "There are people here that hate you. I'm not one of them. I forgive you."
And it is what God says to do, and that's to forgive. You are forgiven, sir.
And that's when Gary Ridgway cried. Not for his victims, not for the lives he destroyed, but when someone offered him forgiveness, he finally broke. The courtroom had seen rage. It had seen grief. But for the first time, it saw something that looked like regret. Aileen Wuornos. Aileen Wuornos wasn't quiet. She didn't sit in court with a blank stare or a motionless tone. From the beginning, she made noise, and she never stopped.
They ever asked me these questions?
Whether the cops were following you or not, Aileen.
Oh, whether the cops were following me or not, Aileen, what?
Aileen admitted to killing 7 men in Florida. She claimed they had tried to rape her. The prosecution said it was cold-blooded murder. But in court, the lines between victim and killer blurred every time she opened her mouth. She would scream at the judge, lash out at prosecutors, and hurl insults across the courtroom. At one point, she shouted, "I was raped. I hope you get raped." It was a trial full of drama, where Aileen was seen in full swing. She cried at times, hurled insults at police and judge, sometimes looked like a victim herself, but the evidence against her was too strong. She looked like an embodiment of victimhood and violence. Finally, when judge announced death sentence by lethal injection,
I sentence you to death for the murder of Charles Humphreys. Case number 91-112, Citrus County case number. I sentence you to death for the murder of David Spears.
She didn't accept her fate quietly, but questioned the judgment and even hurled insults. Later, she washed it off as her way to beat the system.
Oh, I was just doing lying biz. That was just my lying gig trying
Jeffrey
to beat the system.
Dahmer. If Aileen Wuornos exploded in court, Jeffrey Dahmer did the opposite. He sat still, spoke softly, and told the truth, every horrifying detail of it. In 1991, Dahmer was arrested in Milwaukee after police discovered human remains in his apartment. Heads in the freezer, bones in the closet, photos of dismembered bodies. What followed wasn't a long legal battle. Dahmer confessed. In court, he admitted to killing 17 young men and boys. He described the murders calmly, clinically, as if he was reading a grocery list.
It's over now. This has never been a case of trying to get free. I didn't ever want freedom.
While the families wept, Dahmer stared forward. He didn't argue. He didn't deny anything. And he didn't ask for sympathy. But what disturbed people most was his tone. No emotion, no real explanation. Just facts. Brutal, honest, and cold. At sentencing, in his last address to the court saying, "I take all the blame for what I did. I didn't ever want freedom. Frankly, I wanted death for myself."
I didn't ever want freedom. Frankly, I wanted death for myself.
But that wasn't enough for some of the families. One woman, her voice shaking with fury, screamed at Dahmer.
I know! Something's out of control! Don't Jeffrey, I killed you, goddammit! Look at me, motherfucker! I kill you! What's your name, sir?
Dahmer remained still, almost passive. Even when court sentenced him 15 consecutive terms of life imprisonment, he remained emotionless, as if someone who had already sentenced himself long before the court ever did. Dennis Rader, or BTK. Dennis Rader called himself BTK. Bind, torture, kill. For years, he taunted police and the media, sending letters signed with that chilling acronym. He was a church president, a Cub Scout leader, a family man, and a serial killer. When Rader was finally caught in 2005, people expected denial, or at least some kind of breakdown. But in court, he didn't hesitate.
Or trolling.
So you were not working in any form or fashion? You were just...
I don't know, if you read much about serial killers, they go through what they call the different phases. That's one of the phases they go through as a trolling stage. You're looking for a victim at that time. And
Rader stood before the judge and gave one of the most cold-blooded confessions in criminal history. He calmly described each murder in detail, how he chose his victims, how he entered their homes, what he did once he was inside. There was no emotion, no remorse, just chilling descriptions. He spoke about binding a woman as if he were explaining how to tie a shoelace. He described strangling victims like he was reading instructions from a manual.
Edgemore.
All right. Can you tell me approximately what time of day you went there?
Somewhere between 7 and 7:30.
At one point, he even corrected himself, clarifying small details about murder as if accuracy somehow mattered. He ended his statement by saying he had a dark side, that he compartmentalized his crimes. He admitted he was a monster and did that in a cold, detached way.
You were engaged in some kind of fantasy during this period of time?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, when you use the term fantasy, is this something you were doing for your personal pleasure?
Sexual fantasy, sir.
I see.
It wasn't rage that made his courtroom appearance disturbing. It was how normal he looked, how calm he sounded, while describing absolute evil.
Put a plastic bag over his head, and then some cords, and then tighten it.
Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy's trial wasn't just a legal proceeding. It was a performance. And Bundy, ever the narcissist, didn't want a lawyer to speak for him. He wanted to be the star. So he decided to represent it himself. Not like a man trying to save his life, but like a man auditioning for public office. Bundy strutted into court like he belonged behind the judge's bench, not in front of it. He cross-examined witnesses, raised objections, made long-winded arguments. He wasn't acting like someone accused of unspeakable crimes. He was acting like a seasoned attorney, or worse, a politician chasing the spotlight. In fact, at times, he seemed to be enjoying himself. Bundy flashed smiles to reporters, chatted with bailiffs, even tried to charm the jury. It was as if he believed he could argue his way out of a mountain of evidence with charisma alone. He played to the cameras, relished every moment of attention. His trial had national coverage, and Bundy thrived in it. Calculated, confident, rehearsed. And then came one of the most bizarre moments in courtroom history. During the penalty phase of the trial, Bundy called Carolyn Boone, his longtime girlfriend, to the stand. While questioning her in open court, he proposed to her. Because of a strange Florida law at the time, saying "I do" in front of the judge made it legally binding. And just like that, he was married, but marriage didn't save him. The jury sentenced him to death. That was Bundy's last major performance. Years later, on death row, he finally confessed to over 30 murders. But even then, he tried to control the story, shifting blame, asking for mercy, seeking sympathy. In the courtroom, there are rules, evidence, procedure, justice. But when a serial killer steps inside, something changes. It becomes a theater, a stage where guilt clashes with performance, and true evil sometimes wears a smile. But the courtroom doesn't forget. It strips away the masks. It silences the act. And no matter how loud the performance, the verdict always comes. Thanks for watching Prison Stories. If this gripped you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more true crime that digs deeper than the headlines.